Well, folks, in today's video, we're going to be testing out all the locomotives I bought at Larkspur Line Train Store. So, as some of you guys probably saw in my Larkspur Line Train Store haul, I got most of these engines pretty cheap, all in used condition. Now, I know some of them run for certain since the guy at the shop tested them for me, and I'm sure some of you guys have seen those operating in some of my live streams. But I've only run the ones he tested at the shop, so I know for certain these three run. But as for all the other ones, they're sort of a mystery, so we're going to find out today which ones run. Now to start off, I just want to make something clear. I'm going to bring some of these engines aside because they don't actually have the capability to run. So for this one, for example, this is going to be a super fun project of the year probably, really. But it doesn't have a motor, so that one's not going to be running. And the same goes for this locomotive right here. It doesn't have any wheels, so you can't run that one. And this one's a dummy engine, so as beautiful as it is, it will not run. I'll put it on the track leader because it does have a light on the inside and it looks really cool, but it's not going to be running. Anyway, for the locomotives that do run, I'll run them anyway. Starting with this one, it's a Union Pacific SD40-2, I believe. Now the reason I want to show you guys this one is because it's got some interesting features for an engine of its time. So if we give it some power, not sure how well you guys can see this on camera, but it's got a blinking light on the top. So it must have some interesting circuitry, because this is just a basic Bachmann locomotive with a pancake motor, but it's got the blinking light on the top, and it's also got directional lighting. You can see right now the backlight is on, but if we flip the direction, it goes off. So I thought that was sort of interesting because honestly I didn't think engines of that era had anything that complex. So we're gonna have to open this one up at some point because I'm really curious what exactly Bachmann put inside this locomotive to give it all those features. The next one's the Amtrak engine. I've been running this one during my live streams. There's nothing too special about it. It doesn't run particularly well. It does run, but to be fair, it probably hasn't been oiled since like 1990, so I guess I should cut it some slack, but I'll show you guys what I mean. See, I'm giving it, that's about 50% power right there, and it's just, to me, it seems a bit sluggish. I mean, this is a locomotive with a 3-pole motor. It should be flying along, and I just don't find it's quite performing as well as it should, so that will be a project. But I do like this locomotive. I think it looks pretty cool, and it's got this figure on the back, which I think that kind of, here, I can get it to focus. I think that kind of adds character. I don't know, it's just sort of unique. And next off is this lifelike locomotive. Now you know, lifelike locomotives are really not considered too great by the model railroading community. But I think for how cheap they were, you know, they were really like budget locomotives. I think they're actually pretty reliable for their own series. And you can see it runs fine. Runs about as well as a lifelike does, really. So yeah, it could probably use some fresh oil just like the Amtrak, but I'm pretty pleased with it. And the paint scheme is actually really cool. I think this is a really good looking locomotive. Now, one of these locomotives. This one is one of the Bachmanns. The guy at the shop did not test it. It's got such a cool metallic paint scheme. And if we give it some power, it appears to be shorted. Yep, this one's not starting. So this one evidently has some sort of issue on the inside that we'll have to get around to fixing at some point. This one right here is an old River Aussie. I'm really unsure as to whether or not this one's going to run. River Aussie locomotives, they've got great motors in them, but they've got a lot of moving parts and things like that, so it wouldn't surprise me if this thing is seized or maybe the chassis is broken. Who knows? Whatever the case is, we're going to, well, it's actually got power. And it's not going to take it because these engines actually rely, usually, the tender is charged with a different current than the locomotive. So what we'll do is, I've got this wire here, and if we hold it to the track, and we just probe one of the brushes. I thought I saw it move a bit. You can hear the motor humming. Yeah, it doesn't seem to want to move though. Let's try giving it full power. Let's see, it might just be seized. Yeah, that's it. So this one's going to be a project, I guess. Anyway, on to the next one. This one I'm really unsure about because this was probably made in the earlier mid-50s. So these engines were very well built, but the oil in it is likely the same oil left the factory. And I think this was probably a kit, if I'm not mistaken. So since it was a kit, it might not even, who knows, it might not even have been assembled right. So just like the River Aussie, current from one rail to the other. Now this one happens to have this wire out the back, so if we just tap to the rail, we'll find out. Saw the wheels turn. Let's see here. Well, I'll be darned, look at that. That's very good, actually. Wow. So if we get this one a tender for it to pull and maybe do some cosmetic work, this one could be a great runner. It's quite hefty too, so this would have great pulling capacity. Mostly it's got all that lead on the inside there, so it's going to be a stronger one. Now onto this. This, I believe, is a Lionel kind of hustler. It's very similar to the Athearn ones. The reason I think it's a Lionel is that, to me, looks like a Lionel motor. So we'll put it on the track here. Let's just shut the power off before we go putting it on. And okay, I think it's on the track now. It's not taking its power. Yeah, absolutely no current there. So that one's going to be a project, I guess. I don't know why it's not taking its power. I honestly thought this one had a decent chance at running. These little 040s are pretty simple engines, but evidently it has some sort of a problem, so we'll have to fix that. Restoration project. And then finally got this. This is an old model power. These are very basic engines. It would really surprise me if this one did not run, honestly. So anyway, let's find out. I've got one just like it. This is not a very old model either. I think these were probably, Model Power probably first started making these in the 2000s. You can tell because they've got new couplers. And it springs right to life. Not bad. Both of those switchers cost me 4 Canadian dollars. And these weren't worth a lot brand new, but still. It's even got a nice little red light, which is sort of cool. Some directional lighting. So yeah, that's a fine little runner. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed. I'm really excited to getting around to doing a little bit of maintenance on some of these, some restorations, and I'm really excited to have a go at trying to get this thing moving. I think it would just be so cool to have an engine that looks like this running. So that will be all a whole bunch of really interesting projects, I think. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching.